This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Microsoft Surface Book 3, as you can imagine, thus the third generation. And some people have complained that the design hasn't changed at all, the casing, and well, that is true. And you might say, well, gee, Apple has MacBook Pros that go on for 3 generations before they redesign them. Dell does the same thing with XPSs sometimes. Well, the thing is that Microsoft comes out with a new one every 2 to 3 years. The original Surface Book actually came out in 2015. That's 5 years ago. Then the Surface Book 2 came out in November of 2017. And now here it is, spring of 2020, spring to summer. And we have this one. So after 5 years, I can see why people might be wanting more. But why is that? We're going to find out now. It certainly is a beautiful and iconic design, though. I have to say, when we complain about it, it's still the same thing. It's not that it doesn't look and feel really good, other than the fact that it's quite heavy. Whether you go with the 13.5-inch, which we did this time, and I'll explain why that is, or the 15-inch. 15-inch isn't that much heavier than the competition at 4.2 pounds. You can see the kilograms and stuff down there. And the 13.5-inch, though, is 3.62 pounds with the dedicated graphics inside. That's pretty darn heavy. But neat design, definitely. Has it been successfully copied? No, it hasn't. Unlike Surface Pro, which has had so many clones, not this one, probably because it's pretty expensive and hard to make. You still have the detachable clipboard section, which is what Microsoft calls a tablet. So that's what makes this unique, and yes, the keyboard is included, unlike most Surface products. So you hit the little button, and the muscle wire releases the hinge, and you can pop off the tablet. And all the brains, as ever, are inside of the tablet, except for the dedicated graphics and the bigger battery. The bigger battery and the dedicated graphics are in the base, where the keyboard is. But you've got your RAM, your CPU, your integrated graphics, and your SSD, all of which, by the way, are soldered on in the tablet section, so it can function independently. Which means if you're buying it and you say, oh, I need a tablet with killer graphics, it only has killer graphics when it's docked. You can, as ever, pick up the display and rotate it and have it facing outwards to get a kind of more tablet-y experience while still using the dedicated graphics, but no dedicated graphics in the tablet section itself. Also, no dedicated graphics in the base model of the 13.5-inch. The one that's $1,599, call it $1,600, has only Intel Iris Plus graphics and a Core i5. If you move up to the Core i7, which is the $2,000 machine, that's the one that we have, you get the NVIDIA GTX 1050 Max-Q graphics with 4 gigs of DDR5 VRAM. That's pretty interesting in a 13-inch laptop. Honestly, you know, with the 15-inch one, there's a lot of 15-inch laptops that have pretty decent dedicated graphics without even being gaming laptops, and I'll talk about those. But in a 13-inch size, pretty much it's just the Razer Blade Stealth high-end model that goes with something as ambitious as that sort of GPU. So that still makes Surface Book 3 pretty unique and hard to replace with a competitor like the HP Spectre X360 13-inch or the Samsung Galaxy Book Flex 13 that we reviewed. Those all have integrated graphics still. So interesting. Why would you want that? Well, say you're doing some video editing. You want to play around with learning some rendering, or you are doing rendering for a living, then that certainly helps a lot. And if you have an urge to play games without buying a separate gaming laptop, the GTX 1050 is kind of at the very entry level of gaming laptop GPU, so it's not bad. We did things like play Tomb Raider on high settings at basically full HD resolution, but a little higher because this has a 3:2 aspect ratio display. And on high, we were seeing in the 30s, sometimes the 40s, sometimes as low as the 20s for frame rates, but pretty playable. And obviously you could drop it to medium, though I didn't see a huge frame rate gain, but Tomb Raider is a current and still pretty demanding game, so that's impressive stuff. It's not going to be something used for competitive gaming, but it sure is not bad to have. So you can see why Surface Book 3 still has some appeal despite the fact that the design hasn't changed. Now with the 15-inch, you get the same Core i7 processor that you would in the 13-inch, and this is a quad-core CPU, the latest generation Ice Lake 15-watt CPU, and you get NVIDIA GTX 1660 Ti Max-Q graphics with 6 gigs of DDR6 VRAM. So a sharper knife in the drawer and more like the beefier entry-level gaming laptop that we see. And that can get you frame rates into the 40s and the 50s at full HD plus resolution in Tomb Raider and in other currently popular AAA sort of titles, so that is pretty neat. But it's not quite alone, because we have the Dell XPS 15 and we have the HP Spectre X360 and the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Extreme Gen 2, all having a GTX 1050 kind of GPU in it. So that's more like the 13-inch. So the 15-inch still has a little extra graphics oomph, which is interesting if you're doing rendering or gaming. Where it all falls apart for the 15-inch, though, is the fact that we're running on 15-watt Ultrabook CPUs, while the competition that I mentioned have all moved up to 45-watt, 6-core CPUs like we would see in a mobile workstation or a gaming laptop, even though they're very thin and they're very light. That's starting to hurt. So this is what happened from 2015 to 2020, and it's a good thing. At first, there was not much like the Surface Book that was a convertible sort of machine that had that much horsepower. You just couldn't engineer it all into a computer and have that much horsepower. But after 5 years, now we have competitors that have stronger horsepower. Why is that important? Well, I'll give you a personal example. I owned a Surface Book 2 15-inch, and I used it for a year. I replaced it. Instead of getting the 15-inch MacBook Pro with the butterfly keyboard and the prices of Macs and all that stuff, I'm going to use this instead. So I do video editing, I do a lot of photoshopping, a hobby photographer, all that sort of thing. I also do digital painting and art, so there was certainly appeal there. But one thing that I noticed is I was always running the CPUs at like at least 50% utilization, and the fans were on in the poor Surface Book, and it was working pretty hard. And it was struggling a bit. So if you're a real hardcore user who needs a sort of mobile workstation machine, this still isn't quite it, despite the price tags, which go up into $2,000, $3,000 and above very easily. So keep that in mind. Also, the convertible competition has gotten a lot lighter over time. So the fact that you have a 3.62-pound 13-inch Surface Book 3, and you look at something like the Samsung Galaxy Book Flex 13-inch, it's 2.5 pounds. The portability factor and the thickness caused by the serpentine kind of hinge that the Surface Book 3 use do hurt it. But again, you're looking at getting dedicated graphics here versus the 13-inch competition. So I think there's still some appeal there. Now, when it comes to the pen technology, it's the same Microsoft Pen protocol. It used to be called N-Trig technology, works with the Surface Pro Pen. And here's what's interesting. I just reviewed the Surface Go 2, and I found the pen, same exact pen, actually, behaved better in terms of smooth lines and lack of diagonal jitter. And when I'm just sketching without getting jiggity, not smooth looking lines when I'm drawing a face or something like that. The Go 2 actually did better with line smoothing in Clip Studio Paint, which does a pretty good job of some line smoothing, and also in Photoshop, which doesn't really do any line smoothing whatsoever. This still feels like the same old Surface Book 2, and even Surface Book 1 to a certain extent. It's pretty much the same digitizer technology as Surface Book 2. So if you're a professional artist, I know some of you out there do use these products, but honestly, I like Surface Pro 7 and Surface Go 2 in terms of pen fluidity. If you're note-taking, it's probably going to be fine for you. But for those of you who are artists, you can also consider things like now Wacom, with their wonderful EMR technology, are actually making more affordable pen displays. Take any PC, Windows or Mac, and you can get a Wacom One 13.3-inch pen monitor for $400, and you can get the 16-inch for $650. So alternatives all over the place now for poor Surface Book 3. Good news is Wi-Fi has been improved too. We have Intel Wi-Fi 6 AX201. No more weirdo Marvel Avistar Wi-Fi or anything that Surface used to use. Also, you get bigger chargers now. First, Microsoft said they couldn't figure out how to deliver enough juice to Surface Book 2 to prevent battery actually draining when you were doing something like gaming. Well, now you get a 102-watt charger with a 13.5-inch with dedicated graphics, and even more watts, 127, if you go with a 15-inch. Some good things that haven't changed, the keyboard is really nice. You have like 1.5 millimeters of key travel, and it's backlit in white. It's a very good keyboard, and of course a Microsoft Precision trackpad, which is the bee's knees. It's wonderful to work with. So the ergonomics of this laptop are delightful, especially compared to some super skinny space-constrained laptops that have been out there in the past. Like the Dell XPS 15, for example, has a very shallow keyboard, or the XPS 15 2-in-1 with its weirdo maglev keyboard. So this is great. The display is pretty much unchanged too, and this has become a little bit of a disappointment. Not the resolution, which is quite good, or the aspect ratio, which I know a lot of you like, 3:2. Though, by the way, when you're watching YouTube videos that are 16:9 or even more cinematic widescreen content, like I've been watching Star Trek Discovery on CBS, and they go with cinematic widescreen, and it's like this little Band-Aid across the middle of the display on the laptop. But anyway, it's 3000 by 2000 for the 13-inch, and it's almost 4K resolution for the 15-inch. It's just the aspect ratio that clips a little bit off on that, but the resolution's fine. The color gamut on it is, any Ultrabook / laptop that costs about $800 to $1,000 these days has full sRGB coverage and 75% of Adobe. And that's what we're getting here. Nowadays, more premium laptops, whether it's a 16-inch MacBook Pro or HP Spectre X360 with OLED or the Samsung Galaxy Book Flex with its QLED display, they have even wider gamut, more rich colors, more enjoyable. So that's a little disappointment. But the contrast is still really very good on this, and the color accuracy from the factory is excellent. So for photographers who are serious about their work, those things are still great. You might not get the wide gamut you would want if you're working on product for print, but if you're working on product for web, sRGB is all you need as a little consolation. As ever with a design like this where the speakers need to be in the tablet, so when you detach it you can still hear it, well, the speakers are okay. They're not really very amazing, but hey, they don't have a lot of space to work with. Ports are unchanged, and that's kind of unfortunate too. There is a new Surface dock too, which will use the Surface Connect connector, which there's one on the base and one on the tablet as well. So yes, you can charge the tablet by itself or connect the dock directly to it if you wish to, but the dock 2 adds 2 USB-C ports that can drive 2 4K monitors at 60 Hz, which the original dock really couldn't do very well. But the bad news is that dock is $259. So it's like $260. It's kind of expensive. And there's still no Thunderbolt 3 here. I'm thrilled there are 2 USB-A ports and there's one USB-C, and of course the headphone jack on the tablet itself, so you don't have to dock it to use the headphones, and a full-size SD card slot, that, but just USB-C, no Thunderbolt 3, in something that costs anywhere from $1,600 up to $3,500 or more. And yeah, Microsoft's engineer, one of them came out and said, oh, because Thunderbolt 3 isn't secure. And you look at ThinkPads that are deployed to governments, and Dell Precisions, and all these others, and you wonder how insecure Thunderbolt 3 might be. It's not really. I think that's BS, to be honest. Just like having socketed RAM as a security issue. If somebody froze it and pulled it out, they might be able to get memory state out of it. This is pretty, you must be really important if you have this issue, right? So with Thunderbolt 3, the only issue right now is what's called the evil maid attack. And it's not really impossible with Surface. So somebody would have to unscrew the bottom of your laptop or take the back of a tablet off in the case of a Surface, which you really can't do, then jumper something to the motherboard, and then they could do an exploit, and then put it back together before you came back to your hotel room. Not really a real security issue. BS. I call BS. We want Thunderbolt 3, Microsoft. Make it happen. Now, one last thing for those of you who are buying Surface for business, there is a business model. It's about $3,500, I think. And that has NVIDIA Quadro RTX 3000 graphics, which is kind of not bad. Though people anecdotally say that actually they're not getting a lot better gaming performance out of it versus the Surface Book 2 15-inch. We don't have it, so I can't say. But for those of you, you know who you are, who need RTX Quadro cards for doing CAD work and doing rendering work, well, it is there for you. So that's the Microsoft Surface Book 3. Again, this is the 13.5-inch. You can still get the 15-inch too if you want, with stronger graphics. It's good improvement, and also Intel 10th generation CPUs inside. Battery life, not so different than the last generation. A little bit lower, probably because the graphics cards are a little bit more powerful, and also because Microsoft might have a firmware update or two to actually improve battery life. But anyway, you can see I'm a little bit torn. I still love this iconic design. There's still really nothing like it with a physical hard keyboard and a detachable tablet, and a 15-inch detachable tablet even, if you get the big one. That's pretty neat, but then again, times have changed too, and there are a lot of alternatives out there that are thin and light and powerful, or better Wacom pen displays if you want to do that, and even, oh my God, I hate to say it, 12.9-inch iPad Pro with a Magic Keyboard for those who are looking at this mostly for 2D art and illustration kind of uses. It's not easy. A lot of good things have happened in the past 5 years, Microsoft. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and do hit the notification bell too.